And so, if Africa was a barren continent in terms of natural wealth, call it resources if you wish, it would definitely have never attracted colonial settlement, let alone being in the news today. And just like game, which is exposed to fierce predators for devouring, the continent stood and apparently is still standing at the mercy of what we now describe as former colonial powers, that is the West. It may sound a little tricky to say so, but when in 2018, more than half a century after a greater number of African countries gained independence, we still find them lining up to seek foreign loans, then the above assertion has its place. And yes, if the creditors, who are the ex-colonial masters, and today joined by China, are still around, cajoling Africa with those bits and pieces in the name of loans, it is also largely because there is much underneath the African earth to tap from. We may call it natural wealth. Typical African traditionalists regret that the continent was ever influenced by the West in everything, including systems and development. To them, pre-colonial African setups were convenient, and if civilization meant putting on clothes made from grass or barks of trees, so be it. If arguing against this school of thought makes any sense, how would one defend the fact that African or Western-styled democracy handed down to Africa is rather seen to be one of the curses taking the continent's wings and preventing it from flying the high skies of modern civilization? Granted that Africa was colonized, granted that the continent accepted Western-styled democracy, the same democracy which prevents even the best or most prominent or performant presidents of the United States to stay in power for more than 8 years, if ever they succeed in winning a second mandate. The same democratic practice which enables the people to hold leaders accountable and force them to resign if they fail to deliver. The same democracy which allows journalists to tackle top-ranking politicians without fear of being thrown behind the bars. The same democracy which obliges people holding public offices to be transparent in every transaction to avoid corruption. Yes, Africa accepted the pact to inculcate such democracy, yet practicing it has been the most difficult assignment ever. Otherwise, how would one explain the fact that some African leaders would clinch to power for 1, 2, 3, and even 4 decades in a so-called democratic setting? How would one understand the fact that the same people, the same names are recycled for decades, and that in 2018, Africa still has political administrators who worked for and with colonial masters? Or is it easy to understand why, after acknowledging failure, and even with growing agitation from the people, African political administrators refuse to resign? The other side of the story is the socio-economic mess this poor leadership has plunged the people into. Poor infrastructure, death traps in the name of roads, hunger, poverty, disease, and the list is endless. Perhaps the silver lining in this dark cloud is a new mindset harbored by a young generation that seems to understand the mathematics better. With technology as an inspiration, this generation, which surprisingly appears to be more pan-Africanist in their thinking, sees a better Africa tomorrow if given the opportunity to translate their knowledge into socio-economic and political development. The question, however, is, are they going to be listened to? Who will grant them such opportunity? Is the older generation ready to hand over the baton? An older generation which argues that an old broom knows the floor or knows the house better, and that it sweeps better. But which one would make a carpet cleaner? Is it an old broom or an electronic vacuum cleaner? These are some of the reflections and questions Nigerians are asking and pondering on as the country prepares to elect a new president 12 weeks from today. Amongst these Nigerians pondering on these questions is Omoyele Sowore, one of the contenders in the race for the presidency. Whether these issues mentioned in this editorial are what would have inspired his bid for the highest office in the most populous black country in the world is what the young candidate, who doubles as chairman of the newly created African Action Congress and founder of the Sahara Reporters News Agency, will be telling us in this edition of Afro-Ethics, just on Apex One Radio. So good afternoon to you joining us on the show. If you are just joining the station, this is Apex One Radio, broadcasting from the United States of America at exactly 12 minutes past 7 in Lagos, Nigeria. Let's kick off the show. And we're going to lay the groundwork. Then we'll be right back to introduce our guests on the show. Don't worry. Just on Apex One Radio. All right, so good afternoon to you joining us on the show. If you are just tuning the station, this is Apex One Radio, broadcasting from the United States of America at exactly 12 minutes past 7 in Lagos, Nigeria. Let's kick off the show. And we're going to lay the groundwork. Alright, that beautiful piece of music, the title Mr. President by Aguchi Wano, Nigerian actor and musician. By the time, 13 minutes past 1, this is Afro-Ethics, the edition of November 2009. So, like we mentioned earlier on, we're having an august visitor here who is one of the candidates of the 2019 presidential election in Nigeria. His name is Omoyele. He's the household name, of course, right? Executive for excellence. So at this point in time, we're going to say welcome to our guest. Let me call this welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for bringing me on your show.
How
this Sunday
was the trip to Columbus?
Very good.
You perhaps have to handle it again.
All right.
Closer to it. Right. You're welcome. And so also on the show, we're going to have the two other hosts alongside me. Ayo Kinoli, whom I want to say thank you for giving me the privilege, because as a matter of fact, it is your show. And we are also joined by Aki Tunde Ademeyo. Did I pronounce it well?
Adeyemo, thank you.
Okay. So he's coming all the way from Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania to join us host this show. So you're welcome for Ayo.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Omoyele Sowore, for joining us on today's special edition. It's Nigerian, upcoming Nigerian election is very much on our mind, and you are one of the contestants in this. It's going to be a tight race, I can guarantee right now. So I want to use this opportunity again to welcome you live on the show Afro-Ethics Live on the Apex One Radio, and of course my co-host on this show.
My name is Akitunde Adeyemo. It is my honor to meet you, and I came all the way from Detroit, Michigan, and I'm a legal consultant in downtown Detroit, and it is my honor to be here.
Thank you so much for making it happen. Thank you so much for coming in today, my friend, my erudite friend, Mr. Akintunde Adeyemo. Let's straight up. Let's kickstart this. Let me start by asking you this question, sir. This political ambition of yours, what is the motive behind this race? You know, you want to be the next president of Nigeria. That's the most second most populated black nation in the world, the commercial nerve center of Africa. And you have been campaigning around. You've been almost all over the world, sharing your dreams and your aspirations. What is the motive behind this?
At every period in life of a nation, in the life of generations of people, there must be a time when they decide to pivot away from failure in the direction of success. A time that they abandon obsolete leaders and go for progressive leaders. It's time for an old generation to give way to a new generation of leaders. Nigeria has reached that point, and those of us who have had experience fighting for what is just, fair, and democratic in Nigeria made a decision, very conscious decision in my own particular case, that we cannot make progress, we cannot move forward, we cannot attain and achieve our potential in the world without new leadership that has the capability, the capacity, and integrity to move Nigeria in the right path of progress, peace, and prosperity. And I'm motivated because I know that I have the capability. I understand Nigeria very well, having fought over the last 30 years against unjust governments, I fought against corruption. I have stood on the barricades for 29 years precisely, gathered enough experience, suffered, been tortured. But I'm not saying this because of any sense of entitlement. It is because it's the right thing to do at this time, and I'm in a better position to take Nigeria to that place that every black person in the world has been looking forward to.
Thank you very much. That was a very brilliant answer from you. And one of the things that people have been saying is that you're a very young man. What kind of experience do you have to steer a country like Nigeria, the richest country right now in Africa, right? But we tend to forget that all these presidents, from 1960 to 2008, they were first elected or installed when they were probably below your age.
Yeah.
So tell Nigerians who are watching right now why you should be elected. What exactly?
I want to correct the
is your-
impression that I'm a young man. Yes, I'm very youthful, but not young. By United Nations definition of youth, I'm a little bit older than what could be considered a youth. I'm 47 years old. I am older than perhaps the president of Canada at this point. I'm older than the president of France. I'm older than the president of, I think, Croatia. I'm older than the president of a lot of nations around the world at this time. I am definitely younger than dinosaurs running Nigeria.
Take it back!
Action.
Action!
Yes. And it's very important to say that when you talk about experience, it depends on the kind of experience you are looking for. If you are looking for an experienced thief, you will not find me to be qualified. If you are looking for an experienced and competent leader, you will not find me as capable. But if you are looking for a person who had an experience fighting for what is just, what is fair, what is right, within the Nigerian context, I am better experienced than any of these leaders you're talking about. You're talking about physical experience of leading people. I've led huge amount of causes in my lifetime. I've led students who fought and brought about the restoration of democracy in 1999 in Nigeria. I've led a media movement that held the feet of those in power to fire over the last 12 years through Sahara reporters. I have led all kinds of courses. I have been a leader, innovative enough to create a digital media platform in Nigeria that was a leading light in the media industry, not only in Nigeria or Africa, but on a global scene, known as Sahara reporters. This is how you know modern day leaders, not leaders who have accumulated stolen wealth, leaders who have killed, destroyed, and decimated their societies. That is not experience. We're talking about despicable wickedness. And we have to be very clear when we talk about experience, what we mean by experience. I want to say one last thing, and I will name names. When Abubakar Atiku ran for the presidency of Nigeria the first time was in 1992. Ask yourself, what was the experience then? Yeah? None. When Buhari became president of Nigeria in 1983 through a coup plot, he was 42 years old. What was the experience then? Well, they could claim that he was a commissioner, he was this, but if you want to really talk about experience, you talk about someone who has done the job before. And Buhari has been president of Nigeria before. Obasanjo has been president of Nigeria before. These are former experienced leaders. But what did that give us? What did the experience do to Nigeria?
If I may follow up on that, you mentioned Atiku, and Atiku, like you said, was former presidential candidate in Nigeria in 1992.
1992.
And then in 1999, he was the vice president to Olusegun Obasanjo.
Yes, for 8 years.
For 8 years. And he was quite involved in money laundering and bribery schemes in the United States.
Absolutely. The records are there.
The records are there with Mr. Jeffrey, a former congressman in the United States.
Williamson,
And his second wife, his fourth wife as well, Mrs. Jennifer Douglas Abubakar.
Yes.
And they are both wanted. In fact, there is a sealed complaint in the Virginia courthouse about this whole thing. And he was subpoenaed several times, but he never appeared for,
He ran away, yeah.
He ran away from the United States, including his fourth wife. Now, if you become the president of Nigeria, I have a question for you. Are you willing to bring all these old corrupt people to justice?
You see, the question is, if you bring them to justice, I want to say, let me reframe it. The question is not if you bring them to justice alone. It's about if you bring justice to them as well.
Okay.
So justice has to be very dynamic. It has to move in both directions. There is no statute of limitation barring anybody who has stolen from being punished whenever the state finds it justiciable to do so. And so that's the way I want to. I don't want to delve into things that don't add value to the conversation we need to have now.
Okay.
Because there's a justice system in place that I would not be controlling directly, but I will ensure that it's functional in the system. In our country. You see, if Nigeria had been able to bring these guys to justice by now, or bring justice to them by now, they will not be running for office. They'll be in prison. At the minimum, so many of them will be on parole or asking for parole to be out of prison. So imagine if Atiku Abubakar was sentenced to prison after he finished his tenure in about 2007. Let's assume that he got a 20-year in jail. By now, he will still be in prison. He would have been half into his prison term. And Nigeria will not be dealing with whether he's coming to office or not. If Buhari had been sent to prison for treason, which was illegal overthrow of government in 1983, he would probably have been guillotined because the punishment for treason, the sentence for treason is death. Even though I don't support death sentence. But that would have been the appropriate punishment at that time. So we will not have Nigeria dealing with these characters some 58 years later. It is the inability of Nigeria to bring justice to these guys that have made them to hold Nigeria to ransom or hold Nigeria by the jugular from time to time. It's not only Abubakar Atiku, it's not only Muhammadu Buhari, it's also a variety of leaders. And I have no apologies about it. That Nigeria hasn't done a good job punishing its criminals. What other countries do all over the world is that regardless of how long it took, they punish their criminals. I think in Cambodia, they just sentenced a few criminals to,
In Malaysia.
Yeah, in Malaysia, they are still punishing military leaders. In South America, guys who carried out coups, who carried out torture. In Nigeria, we reward them with bigger political and social promotions. And that is what encouraged these guys to embark on the kind of impunity that you see from time to time in the way they even approach the leadership process with arrogance. So I'm not supposed to be here sitting down, wondering who wins between two criminals. We should have been discussing who wins between the people with the brightest ideas in the country to take Nigeria to the next level. Particularly concerning, relating to the fact that these people we are discussing today, will take Nigeria backward by several steps. We know that. We know that the only thing Atiku is interested in doing is selling whatever is left. The last time Atiku was in Nigeria's vice president, he was in charge of selling public institutions to private individuals. sold several of it to themselves. They awarded themselves licenses for university. They sold, public corporations to themselves.
Okay.
Now he has even made it clear that his first act in office will be to sell 90% of the NNPC to
Let me,
himself.
I don't mean to cut you short, but let's go straight up to your ambition. You know, the party you are announcing this ambition on that a political party, a new political party,
That's- yeah.
AAC.
Yeah.
And what we have heard so far is Sowore for president, Sowore for president, Sowore for president. For you to be able to implement these policies, at least you need the majority in the Senate, you need the majority in House of Representatives, you need to be involved in the grassroots politics. What is the plan of AAC right now? And your the contestants, other contestants vying for other political office, why are they being quiet so far? Because, like I said, you cannot do this alone. You cannot, if you go there and PDP controls this and the other parties control, it's going to be difficult for you to be able to implement those policies. So what's your plan?
So you have to understand that the political party aspect of my contest came 2 months ago or thereabout. I started about 8 months ago to be a presidential aspirant looking for a political platform, a political party platform to use to actualize that ambition. In the process, we then discovered we could set up a political party. It was announced about 3 months ago, let's say month and a half now. It became the most popular political party in Nigeria. If I ask you, those of you sitting to my left and right here, if you knew of any of the 23 political parties that were recently registered, probably you don't.
Probably not.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, if I ask you if you know beyond APC and PDP, if you know 10 other political parties in Nigeria apart from AAC, you probably don't. It is because we took it to that level. But there are other candidates, there are other political candidates. We have about 7 governorship, I think 10 governorship candidates. We have about 7 senatorial candidates. We have over 100 House of Rep candidates.
On that AAC?
Yes. All these names were submitted and verified a few weeks ago. So that's what took time, but they are working. You have heard about one guy named Mr. Jollof.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Who is very popular. He's an AAC candidate in Delta State. So we have several others. We have a governorship candidate at Jury Lodja in Lagos. We have candidates all over the place. So considering when we started, we're doing very well. But I'll go to the question of if you need majority of other parties, your party to be in the National Assembly or not. Let me tell you, you need the majority of the Nigerian people to be behind you as president to succeed. The political parties that you see, I ask you a question. Didn't the APC have the majority of senators in the Senate, majority of House of Rep members in the House of Rep? Did the APC have it easy? Because it's not a political party. These are a bunch of greedy individuals who have used political parties as a vehicle to achieve their own agenda, which is to make Nigeria dry by paying themselves allowances that are criminal in nature. An average Nigerian senator receives more money in terms of monthly salary than the President of the United States of America. That is the truth. So we need the Nigerian people, not necessarily senators. If I ask you if you can find 2 senators in Nigeria that's working in the interest of Nigerian people, you can't name them. You can find 4 House of Reps members that is working in the interest of Nigerian people. You can't name them because they don't exist. So, but we are starting well. First, if you take the presidency, which is what we will do, the country will be handled by someone who is competent, someone who's got a great heart, someone who's got integrity, someone who is vision driven, someone who is action oriented. And the things that the president of the country can do alone is enough to put Nigeria on the path of progress. The rest, of course, we have to work with other arms of government. There's no question about it. But we are not going to work at their own mercy. They have to work at the mercy of the Nigerian people. And if they don't, there are tools to get them removed. You can recall a senator, you can recall a House of Rep member.
Thank you so much for answering that question brilliantly. We're going to go back to the schedule.
This is Afro Ethics reaching you from Apex One Radio. We are broadcasting live from the United States of America. And on the show today, we are having one of the contenders of the 2019 election in Nigeria, Omoyele. Sowore is running for the presidency, and we are told that general elections will take place in that country on the 16th of February 2019. And of course, he is unveiling his political agenda here on the show. I just want to find out this from you. You mentioned earlier on that you've taken your newly created party to that level. When you talk of that level, what do you mean? You don't have seats in parliament, you don't have any political base yet. Nigeria is so wide. Are you implanted in all corners of the country? And you think that with just a couple of months old, that party can get to the presidency come February next year?
Absolutely. The APC, which is the current ruling party, did not produce a presidential candidate until December 2014. So even in terms of preparation, I'm ahead, our party is ahead of where the APC was in 2014, and they eventually went and won the election that was also held in February, I think it was March 2015. Yes. And so it is nothing new that a fresh political party, where the political party needs to be first and foremost is the consciousness of the people. The moment you are able to stay there, and then the physical structures become very easy to create. We already have representation in all the 774 local governments of Nigeria. We have 36 state structures in place. I have myself traveled to 30 states in 8 months to do town hall meetings. I've been to several cities, I've been to towns, villages in Nigeria, schools, I've been to marketplaces, I've been to a lot of traditional, palaces and, places in Nigeria, and I've done the same outside of the country. So in terms of consciousness is what I'm reminding you again, we're there. In terms of structures, we're there. And in the course of building our own structures, we found out that the so-called big political parties, the behemoths, don't have structures. What they have are retail outlets for corrupting the democratic process in Nigeria, for intimidation of voters, for votes buying, and you can't call those structures. Those are criminal, outlets or food chain. It's what we call a pyramid scheme here in the U.S., where it will look original and genuine to you, but at the end of the chain, there is no value added to democracy. But it's just a criminal manipulation of the process.
Now, let me come again before. Now, there's an unwritten rule that power in Nigeria shuttles between the predominantly Muslim north and the Christian south. And so after every 8 years, there is this alternation. And it is between the APC and the PDP. Do you think that you are able to dismantle this formula?
Absolutely. It's an unwritten rule, but it was a rule made by the elites to game the system. When it comes to hunger and poverty, there's no rotation of hunger. There's no ethnic consideration, there's no religious consideration. When it is time to steal and share the loot, they don't even speak, any other language but English language, which helps them to facilitate corruption. So we know that, and what we have been able to establish is that Nigerians are no longer fooled by the zoning, what they call it zoning, by the zoning structure. Nigerians are looking for leaders who can help them climb out of poverty, who can grant them opportunity to, gain their foothold in life, to achieve their full potential, especially young people. 70% of them, they are not encumbered by the lazy man argument of zoning. They have realized, particularly in places where they have been used a lot, that when you zone power to the north, it doesn't end poverty in the north. It doesn't bring education to the average Northerner. And in reality, when you pierce through the zoning structure, nothing is zoned anywhere. It's just a group of political elites who are, engaging in what we call psycholocution, deceiving the public, plenty of motion, no movement. At the end of the day, they are the same crime family, established well to gain a foothold on Nigeria's political power levers that they use only in their own interest, not in the interest of any zone.
Thank you. Before the election of President Buhari, you were the publisher, or you still remain the publisher of Boston Reporters, right?
Well, it's probably proper to say I'm founder.
Okay, yeah.
Point, yes.
Founder and publisher of Boston
I
Reporters.
haven't published in a long time.
Okay.
But you still hold Sowore Reporters.
I founded it.
Yeah.
Did
But
you
I
sell
don't.
it, or did
No, it's there. It's,
Okay.
Are you
but it's
still in
government.
control?
No, I haven't. Like I said, in the last 8 months, I haven't even had a chance to scratch my eyebrow.
We'll
We'll
go back
get to
to
the
that.
question of divestment and all that later on. But now, before 2015, during the administration of Jonathan, you were at the forefront of calling out this corrupt act that was going on under this administration.
Yes.
You published several damning articles about corruption in Nigeria.
Yes.
And you were also at the forefront of telling Nigerians that we have to, change path, we have to change presidency, that good luck has to go, And you supported President Buhari. And when I was talking to people on Facebook and on my blog about interviewing you today, they were asking me that, do you feel some kind of betrayal, or do you feel some sense of betrayal of trust, that you put all your trust in Buhari to reform Nigeria, or perhaps to fight corruption at its peak, right? I mean, as its most basic. Did you really believe that President Buhari could fight corruption? Or, are you not going to tell Nigerians that, well, I'm sorry, I supported Buhari, but that was a mistake? Are you willing to admit that?
You see, you have to understand my place in the life of Nigeria in the last 30 years. You will put a lie to some of these things you just mentioned. One, there is no evidence anywhere that I supported Buhari, so that should be taken off the table.
We can say, I understand that you didn't obviously, or, upon a support.
No.
When you
When
support,
you say somebody is supporting someone, it means in a political sense of it.
yeah.
It's an endorsement that someone goes out there to say, hey, there are two candidates, you vote for this. Even in the US, the New York Times does endorse a candidate.
Right.
Whenever at elections, I didn't do any of
You didn't
that.
go to
But let me just pull back a little bit, pull you back into history, and you understand that I started as a student activist in 1989. Yes, I did not support Abiola for the election, but when his mandate was threatened, I supported him to retrieve his mandate. I did not support Obasanjo for the election, but when he wanted to do third term, I opposed him.
Okay.
Yes, I did not support Yaradua for the election, but when he was sick and held the country to ransom, and his wife was leading what they call the Yaradua cabal, we opposed him, and so much so that you could also have made the conclusion that I supported Goodluck Jonathan coming to office.
Well, I'm not going to make that
But
correction.
I was supporting justice at every time within the political circle in Nigeria. When there is need for justice to be done, I will go for what is just and fair.
Okay.
And when Jonathan came into office, immediately they started engaging in corruption. We started exposing the corruption.
Okay.
Everybody within the opposition at that time could have capitalized on those reports and use it to their own advantage.
Okay.
It was their right. My job as a publisher is to tell the truth and move on to telling the next truth until truth becomes a dominant currency within our political system.
Okay.
So that you are very clear about it. Immediately Buhari came into office, the first set of damning corrupt stories also emerged from us.
Okay.
The way they were hiring at the Central Bank of Nigeria, the way the secretary to the government was involved in corruption. In fact, as Buhari was covering up his illness in London, we were the ones that was exposing it on a daily basis. Everything that they were doing to circumvent the Nigerian process or the democratic, or undermine the democratic process came from Sahara reporters. To the extent today, if you watch Facebook, our greatest enemies are the people you call the Buharis. Because there's a difference between someone who is consistent about his trade and someone who is, vacillating about his convictions. I do not vacillate, and I've never. That's the reason why people who initially said, "Oh, you supported Buhari," the moment I kept challenging them, "Where's the evidence?" All of them disappeared. Of course, there were people who felt very bad that Jonathan lost the election. That was the problem, not my problem. And it's very important that people understand. One last thing I would say is that one of the worst things that was done to Nigeria is the fact that they don't teach history.
Yes,
If they taught history, I wouldn't have to be making these explanations today.
Go back to that. Before we go on this musical break, I'm going to ask you a question before we go on this musical break. You claim you'll be able to, because one of the problems we have in Nigeria right now is the unemployment rate is at its peak.
Yes.
And you claim you are going to be able to produce 5 million plus jobs
In 2.5 years.
How do you plan to do this?
Yes. Alone, we have 3 areas of intervention that will suck in a lot of unemployed youths. And one of it is the power sector. We have 3,000 megawatts of electricity right now. That is hardly enough to probably power a university here in Ohio. And we need to move rapidly 24,000 megawatts of electricity, in which the renewable energy will be a major part of it. You see, if you are doing solar panels, just to put solar panels together alone for 4,500 megawatts of electricity, you need over 1 million hands, right? We want to double Nigeria's highway system infrastructure. We have 200,000 kilometers of highway in Nigeria. If we bring in another 200,000, which we dualize every federal highway in the country, that will suck in some 2 million hands that will make it happen. Between the construction companies, people who are cutting bush, people who are going to pave the highway, the engineers who are going to keep busy, that is going to bring in about 2 million jobs. Securing Nigeria alone, hiring more policemen, soldiers, equipping them, training them, is going to bring in about 500,000 jobs. Because according to the United Nations, there has to be a number of policemen to a number of people to know that they are properly policing. But we won't have a terrorism problem, right? In the agricultural sector, where we want to bring in a revolutionary agricultural process for food security, you'll be talking about another 2 million jobs. We are being conservative. And the most important thing I would say we'll do is to turn Nigeria into a construction site. Do you know what we need to do in terms of housing? 17 million units of housing need to be built for us to meet our housing needs. And in ensuring that we go all out to get this done, you're talking about another 2 million jobs. Then we want to hire 200,000 teachers. We want to hire 160,000 health workers in Nigeria. In the tourism sector alone, the kind of investment we want to make there. Honestly, I am telling you that 5 million is just a conservative figure. If we do what we need to do within such a short time, probably Nigerians will be overworking themselves.
Thank you for
so much
asking.
that they won't like the president. This president is bringing too much work.
This is
what you
Afro
hear.
Ethics listening from Apex One Radio, the edition of the 18th of November 2018. We are broadcasting from the United States of America, precisely from the state of Ohio. Before we take a break, I would like to ask you this question. Some observers say that, or claim that politicians in Nigeria actually used you through Sahara reporters to kick Goodluck Jonathan out of power. Now, if that was the case, and it is established that Sahara is a very strong force in Nigerian politics, how is this media outfit going to support you or to let you into Asarok?
Well, that's a misconception. A slanderous one for that matter. But I'm not new to such allegations. When I was in the university, I was accused of being used by people to throw out the military out of power. Right? When Obasanjo was running for third term and we opposed it, Obasanjo's people claimed that Atiku was using me to oppose his third term agenda. when Yaradua was sick, they said Jonathan was using me to oppose Yaradua to climb onto power. When Jonathan started misbehaving, they said Buhari was using me to kick him out of power. Now that I'm opposing Buhari, they said the devil is using me to fight Nigerian leaders. So you don't understand these people. It's a game. They are playing psychological game with our people. They know that of all the presidential candidates, I have been the most consistent. I have record to show that I have done the same thing all the time.
When you talk about consistency,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
Well, like I have been fighting, as a pro-democracy activist, as a human rights activist, as a media activist in that country, all to make Nigeria a better place. And there's ample evidence to show it. If you go to the internet, you see me behind Abiola at the age of 21, fighting to help him retrieve his mandate. Ask me, what did Abiola offer me in 1993? 800,000 naira. He called me into his room. He said, young man, you are the leader of the student union in Lagos. You are so powerful. Take this money. 800,000 naira in 1993 is like $800,000 today.
Right.
Almost, in terms of value. I rejected it. At that time, I had 2 pairs of pants, what we call trousers in Nigeria, and 1 shirt. And I wasn't attracted to 800,000 naira. As Sahara reporters, you know how many times I get offered money, in addition to threats. I wouldn't even accept government adverts so that the platform is not compromised. But most importantly, to your last question, is that the platform Sahara reporters is not part of my campaign team. It's a separate and different entity. And you can go and read Sahara Reporters. In fact, somebody was complaining to me the other day that they think that Atiku has bought Sahara Reporters. Because, yes, he went to Google AdSense, placed Google AdSense ads, and targeted Sahara Reporters, which you can do with Google AdSense. But I didn't even know these things because I haven't had time, like I said, to scratch my eyebrows in the last 8 months.
Omoyele is his name. He is a presidential contender for the 2019 elections in Nigeria. He is the guest on Afro Ethics on Apex One Radio today, hosted by Ayo Akintunde, Aid, and Kanji. We're going to take a short break time for our guest to catch his breath, and when we come back, the story of his actions will definitely continue.
And we're going to take some questions from within the studio.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ewa.
There are a lot of people, what people don't know about Sowore.
They know his history. Yes.
I'll let him know.
For me, whoever says Sahara report is being used by politicians.
It's not a
You are
because
a
it's
guy-
deliberate.
Sorry,
You are a
excuse me.
person.
In the studio, we cannot ask all your questions at once and you address it because we are two.
We're not even asking, we're just discussing. This is
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're on the break.
Yeah,
oh, we're on a
they'll
break.
break.
We're
Oh,
not,
then you can ask
this
me your
is
question too.
just
It's because they don't read these questions. They don't read.
Wait, we connect.
Oh, it's back on.
Okay. So
So we're going back. We have.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's gonna leave in 2 p.m. He's gonna be leaving. So I would say we should take 2 questions from the studio. Then we'll go about 10 minutes. 2 questions from the studio. We gotta make it short. Then we'll round up.
okay. So
2 questions from the studio from our guests in the studio. Then we go back to her.
Okay.
So you go first. Short question. Very short question. Then we go.
the, should I go?
Hold on.
Yeah.
He's gonna give you a signal.
All right.
And then
So
you take
we're
back.
coming back on the airwaves.
Then you take the mic.
Okay. This is Afro Ethics, the edition of November the 18th, 2018. It's a special one, of course, because we're having an august guest here. He's one of the contenders for the 2019 Nigerian presidential bid. Omoyele Sowore is his name. He doubles as a media executive. So we have some guests here in the studio with us who are very itchy to ask questions to our guests. Let me begin from my extreme right. You can introduce yourself and you ask your question. Very brief.
My name is Dan Allo, former editor for Daily Independent newspaper, the pioneer news editor for Core TV News Nigeria. I'm going to ask this question. I've spoken with Eunice Atoje. She has shown me documents where you signed and Malcolm signed. And the idea was for all young people aspiring to be Nigeria's president to come together. Because if you have described Nigeria's problem as behemoth, you can't confront it all alone. So, what that pact was all about is to have all of you come together, form a formidable opposition to tackle the status quo. Why did you opt out?
Well, this will be, it's not a hard question. It's actually a very simple question.
Where's the second question?
The simplicity of it, I will answer by saying that it's incorrect. It's totally incorrect that I signed any document with Eunice Atoje or NIP. What happened was that Eunice Atoje met me in London when I went for a town hall meeting there. Said he was in love with our brand of politics and asked us to explore opportunity with her to join her political party, the National Interest Party. And we said before we do that, we want to make a bunch of proposals. I did not oversee that. Malcolm was overseeing that. And we actually traveled with her in Nigeria. And I'm addressing this for the first time. I typically ignore her. But this is the international scene now. And when we traveled, we discovered first that her organization, which is our party, has only one person. You know, what we used to describe as non-governmental individuals, one person. We couldn't find any member of our party while we were having conversations with her. We're worried about that. Secondly, she placed before us a debt of 80 million naira that he said the party was owing him. And that whatever we do, we have to pay him back that money first. The money has to be deducted from whatever money we raise before we can start. Thirdly, as we're having the conversation with Atoje went and joined COP, the coalition that was put together by the PDP, right? And we said to her, how can you be having conversation with us that you're going to join the PDP? This was publicized. The contradictions were clear that Atoje wasn't interested, you know, in having a vibrant presidential candidate. I think she was just throwing her nets all over the place, you know, hoping that it will catch somebody. And the moment we saw through the falsehoods, you know, the dishonesty that characterized the conversation, we pulled that. There was no signature whatsoever. Ask her this simple question, that when she went and signed the pact with COP, which is the PDP coalition, how did she sign? When she showed you document, can you please provide the document public? Don't send it to me, you know, so that you can compare my own signature with that. Malcolm was the one leading the conversation with her. And the moment we discovered that there was thorough dishonesty and inconsistency as to what she stood for and what we stand for, we decided to end the conversation. There was no signing of any documentation.
How about pact?
Pact, I did not attend.
No, you attended.
We're going to go to the next question. We're going to take the next question.
No problem, don't worry. Let me answer that pact before we go. It's very important. Pact is very important, please. The Nigerians are listening. I attended only one meeting of pact, and my suggestion when I got there was that I met 18 presidential aspirants. About 10 of them I'd never seen before. I advised them immediately. I said, where did you bring all these guys from? I never heard about them, even though I'm not encyclopedia of presidential aspirants. I said, why don't you wait? Let all of us become presidential candidates and we can then come together. They said no. That day I left parts and never went back to parts.
We're going to take the next question from Mr.
Yes.
Femi Oshabia. Go ahead with your question, sir.
My name is Femi Osabia. I work with the Omoyele State Department of Public Safety. I'm a cybersecurity analyst. And my question will be very brief, and I think Mr. Alo take part of the question. I have to compliment you what you're doing. I've been following Sahara Provide for a very long time, and that's a lot of compliment on that. And I will keep supporting you on my part.
Thank you.
And a lot of my friends in Maryland, Virginia, they all support you. We're on the path with you. But my question is going to be part B of what Mr. Alo is asking you, and I'll make it straight. Someone like Fela Durotoye and Kingsley Moghalu. And another person is called Mohamed Buhari.
Yeah.
He's a very young aspirant. Ahmed Buhari.
Yes.
I believe to take out this cabal, the APC and the PDP in Nigeria, there got to be a coalition. And I strongly believe that. This is a question I've been pounding in my heart forever.
Yeah.
And I have the opportunity to ask you now. There got to be a fine print between the coalition, between you. I understand your principle, I understand what you base on, but among all those guys, 1 or 2 or 3% have to be with you for you guys to come together on this thing. Please, can you shed more light on that? Thank you.
I completely think that it will happen. It's a matter of time. And the reason why it will happen is that over time, boys will be separated from men. And men will be separated from the old men. And what has happened with all these young candidates is that a lot of them want to make their foot, they want to make an impression on the political process. I'm not trying to make an impression on the political process. The question you should ask yourself is, in 1993, where was Moghalu? You've never heard about him until now. Yes, he became the deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And employment provided by connection. I have never had those kind of opportunities before because I never sought those kind of advantage. I've always fought for what is just and right. The second question you ask yourself is, everybody who is running for presidency actually running on behalf of principle? A lot of them are sponsored by third parties. I don't know who is who, but my experience with Eunice, for example, showed to me that when you see someone who just come from the blues, be very careful. Especially when they are old enough to have engaged in other things and they never did anything for Nigeria. The way I judge it is that at least if we didn't fight during June 12, at least in 2012 when we did occupy Nigeria, we would have seen you do something in the life of the country if you believe in fighting for Nigeria. The last thing I will say to you regarding this coalition you're asking for is that you're asking of coalition of parties. What about coalition of persons and ideas? There are a lot of people who are lined up behind us. Today, if you read Vanguard newspaper, they said they conducted a poll, had no hand in it, but they said Buhari won, Atiku was second, Sowore was third. Sowore that didn't have $100,000 have not raised up to that $100,000. Atiku has already spent $16 million, $20 million at the primaries of PDP. Buhari has the Central Bank of Nigeria in his hand. But yet, nobody from nowhere, is trailing at number 3. That's a poll that was conducted by an independent group. But the truth is that in the real genetic and organic sense of it, the outrage in the country will propel us to number 1 very soon. And that's what you should focus on.
Thank you so much.
Take it back.
Thank you so much. We're going to take one more question from Precious. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Precious, and I'm an alumnus from University of Lagos. I was part of the movement for the Student Union in 2017. We were able to bring back Student Union in the University of Lagos. Yeah. Now, my question is this, and I'm going to be very pragmatic here. I'm always in Nigeria. I will be in Nigeria for the elections. I'm seeing what happened in the Osun State elections. I know a lot of youths are going to vote for you. I myself will vote for you if I have my PVC. How do you intend to protect your votes, knowing this man will go above and beyond to secure that position?
Yeah. You see, I have said it, and this is very important. Listen to me very carefully. This is both an election and a revolution that's about to happen. If they mismanage one, it will lead to the other. If they mismanage the election, it will lead to a revolution. because we have reached a point, breaking point for Nigerians. Nigerians are saying enough is enough. And what you're seeing is a coalition not of persons and their angst, anger, and frustration. Is also of a desire to have a country that would propel them, that they can be hopeful about, that will give them the opportunities they need in life. They might have gotten away with Osho State and Ekiti State. It is because a lot of Nigerians are not concerned about those two places. But this national election is an election of an existential nature. It's about the existence of the Nigerian soul. And people will go to every length to protect it. So those who are planning to rig the election, people who are planning to see and buy, they will be shocked. One last thing I will say to you.
Let's go.
Take it back.
Take it back.
Action.
Nigeria has actually been here before. We were here during the June 12th election, where everybody thought that the richest or the most manipulated group would win the election. They lost out. It also happened in 2014 here, 2015. Everybody thought that with the money that PDP was deploying dollars as if it was going out of circulation. But they lost the election because people said, for some people mistakenly, that Buhari would give them, a different kind of, in a new lease of life. That did not happen. So Nigerians are a little bit more sophisticated than
Let me take this
the
question.
assumptions that you have that they can get away with everything. And they themselves they know it.
I'm going to ask this question, then I'll go back to you, then we'll go back to Ernest Kenjo. Now, when it comes to sensitizing the citizens of Nigeria, because that's one of the most important things, one thing that we've seen so far, like Precious said, that apart from this, the cabal snatching the ballot boxes and all that, creating commotions during elections to rig the elections, one thing that's so important is sensitizing our people to make sure, to let them understand that, this vote determines your future. What are you doing when it comes to sensitizing the citizens of Nigeria right now about the importance of this election and how to ensure that they do not sell their vote to the wrong people and make sure they vote the right candidate with the right ideologies to take Nigeria to the next level?
What do you think we are doing here in the last 1 hour? Sensitization. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say, that if you don't go on the
Grassroots, I'm
ground,
talking about grassroots now.
you have not understood that the grassroots has also evolved over the years. As we are here, people are watching us. If I get out of here, I'll get a call from my grandmother in Ondo State. And you said, son, I just watched you on Facebook Live. Do you know that my grandmother watched Facebook Live? Do you know that when she can't watch, somebody will go and translate and interpret to her? It's part of it. But I'm not discountenancing the fact that we need to put boots on the ground.
Yes,
and we're doing
exactly
that. Nobody has done it better. In fact, if you ask who amongst the presidential aspirants and later candidate has done the most campaigning in this particular election cycle, they'll point to no other person than myself. So
Take it back.
that one is not a problem.
Action.
The reason why we're out here is to get more empowerment, get more materials, get more support to be able to do it, to do what America used to call shock and awe in Nigeria come next year.
Special edition of Afro-Ethics, reaching you from Columbus, Ohio, United States of America. We have Omoyele Sowore as main guest on the show. He is presidential contender in the 2019 election in Nigeria. Okay, so we
One last
towards
question.
the close of the show. I don't know, we're definitely going to end with him, but then I will just crave your indulgence to take one last question from the crowd. He is Mayo Akinde. He is a Nigerian, an American, who is also a politician, and he has run for several elections in the state of Ohio as well. He has the last question for you.
Yeah, I'm glad to meet you. Heard much about you. Actually, this past couple of weeks, I'm impressed. Of course, I'm not so in depth in Nigerian politics at this point, but I know how bad things are, and I know people have had attempts in the past. A lot of things I've heard from you, I'm impressed. I think it's actually doable. But I think there's some kind of way you need that revolution to be generated by some kind of power around the diaspora. So you're here today. So what is your ask from people that, because they're in the diaspora, you got to have an ask coming out here. So. And just pretty much break it down how that would happen, because there's a lot of us here who are not active enough. We talk about the problem, but we don't think about solution. We don't think about being involved in solutions. So what is your ask from each individual who are Nigerians in diaspora?
Thank you, and I'm going to go straight to it. The diaspora community is Nigeria's gold. We provide the most amount of revenue to Nigeria beside oil. Over $70 billion has already been shipped to Nigeria this year from the diaspora alone. And what we are asking is to get the support, because we don't have godfathers and godmothers supporting us. As you know, they hate us with passion. And that hatred is mutual. We hate them too. I mean, quote and unquote. But we need people in the diaspora. Our ask is for 10,000 Nigerians living out here in Europe, everywhere, to donate $200 each to us. And that will put us at $2 million advantage to fight, $2 million advantage to fight this behemoth you're talking about. We have particular advantage that nobody in Nigeria expects us to buy them rice, or any piece of clothing to bribe them on election day. People are asking us to demonstrate that, ideas can become the new currency of politicking. And they have come to accept that we are versed in ideas. And so whomever can support us financially, or if you have a home that's lying around in Nigeria, you have a vehicle that we can brand, or you can donate posters to us, stickers, you can donate flyers to us, t-shirts, hats, all those things that make politics great, look nice, and make them modern and civilized is what we're asking for. We're not asking for anybody to send us AK-47 or bullets. We need for these ideas. Well, the revolution will take care of itself.
Okay, next question. We're just going to have the last question from my co-host, then we'll be finding out what brought the presidential aspirant to Columbus. And so it will be at the end of the show. So, I can read it.
Well, thank you. So my own area of expertise is corruption. I investigate top corporations in America for corruption and all that. And this is what I'm going to ask you right now. So, if you can fight corruption in Nigeria with the current mechanism that we have in place, right? If you go to Ukraine right now, they have the United Nations and other external anti-corruption agencies helping Ukraine fight corruption. If you go to Malaysia right now, you will see the Justice Department in the United States trying to help Malaysia to fight corruption. If you were elected as president of Nigeria, will you be willing to bring in external special prosecutors to prosecute corrupt Nigerians? That's my first question. Number one, that won't violate our sovereignty, by the way. That's the rule of law. Now, number two, when you become the president of Nigeria, are you willing to create a blind trust to put your interest or your stake in Sowore Reporters separately? Are you going to open a blind trust that would, that will create like an encumbrance between you and what Sowore Reporters does? Are you willing to create a blind trust, a real blind trust?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's an easy thing to do. In fact, I'm divested from Sowore Reporters a lot.
Right now?
Yes, because
Completely divested?
Well, not completely in the sense that, the operation in Lagos, I'm completely not involved anymore. I'm not involved in day-to-day running of Sowore Reporters.
Okay.
That's what I mean by divestment.
Okay.
But in terms of a legal structure to put everything I have, that's easy, and I will do that.
Okay.
Including declaring my assets, which is very important.
All right, we're going to take one more last question.
The
from
last question is that, hey, bringing in forensic investigators, prosecutors, that's something I would be very, very happy to do. And you better go get your visa if you don't have one already.
All right, we're going to take this last question from Mr. Mayo.
I'll be remiss not to mention this because one of the things that actually, I guess, got me excited and made me feel like maybe that perhaps I can support. Because I have my limitations how much I can support since I've run for office here. And I plan to run for office here in the future. So one of the things that I think that would help gain more steam in what you're doing is the idea that you already had, but it's not been put out there enough, that you actually are willing to give dual citizenship to African Americans who do the DNA testing.
Yeah.
So that's one issue I think that you should talk about more, because people like Malcolm X, went to AU back in the 60s to try to gain this bond that we can have with people overseas. So definitely, I think that's something that we need to talk about more. So if people who are living here in the United States can talk to all the multi-generation African-American friends, first and second generations out there listening. Talk to your multi-generation African American friends. Let them know that if one day they do decide that they want to go to Africa,
relocate, yeah.
So they
will provide a home for you.
Talk more
in
about
Nigeria.
it.
And our decision is that when you do your DNA and it points to Nigeria, you will have the rights to travel to Nigeria visa-free if you're African American throughout our tenure. I will make sure that it's become institutionalized, because we need you as much as you need us. My heart bleeds that the black community of blacks on the continent of Africa and blacks here on this side of the world have not come together to create a formidable global force to stop the kind of oppression and humiliation of the black race. And that is why we need Nigeria to get it right. The moment Nigeria gets it right, you would see a difference in your lives here too. Because then we can all work together to make sure that the dignity of the black man, whether it's in Ohio or in Lagos or in Zimbabwe, is upheld.
Sowore is speaking like a Pan-Africanist, which of course he is, and of course the presidential contender is here in the state of Ohio, precisely in the city of Columbus. So what brings you here?
I came here for a fundraiser, and it's happening this afternoon here in Columbus. I've heard that a lot of professionals here. I'm not only interested in your money, I'm interested in recruiting you to go back home when we present Nigeria. Next year we're going to need a lot of you. So it's at 4254 Cleveland Avenue here in Columbus. Zip code is 43224.
All right, so the message has definitely gone across. This is Afro ethics that is running off, but then we have this little message. So this is away from politics, Sowore. It's totally away from politics. We are a media organization, so we don't do partisan politics. But then we have been following up Saharan reporters, and as a media entity, I think it's inspired a lot of Africans, especially those who do the kind of things we do as a media. And I think it's time Africa should step up as well, because we have CNN, Fox, RFE, VOA, that project the Western democracy and of course Western societies. And so if we have African media entities with that kind of strength, that tell the African story, the African way, I think we are just inspired and glad. So we want to congratulate you on the job you are doing as far as Sahara Reporters is concerned. And so our Text One Radio has a surprise for you.
Wow.
The general manager is going to just to congratulate you on the great job you're doing for Sahara and having inspired other media initiatives.
Yes.
Thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you.
We are really privileged to have you in our studios, and on behalf of Apex One Radio, we say thank you so very much, and we wish you success in all your endeavors.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Apex Radio here, Apex One Radio. Yes.
Take it back.
Take it back.
Action. Thank you so much, and I promise to be here with my entire crew when I become president of Nigeria.
Yes,
Take it back.